Tom Trento at 561-319-5533. Or you can email him, tom@TrentoVision.tv. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or tom@TrentoVision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and TrentoVision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Joe, what is going on in here? What is he doing? I'm glad we're not simulcasting this on video so no one can see this. What, Mark, what are you doing? You're switching chairs. Your chair switching almost cost us a computer, but no big deal. We got donors out there.
A camera here, a computer there,
computer.
Duct tape productions.
Mike, I see nothing on the screen, but it's probably coming up. Hi, Tom Trento, Trento Vision .tv. That's a TV site, and man, do you wish you had a TV for what you would have just seen, but I guess we weren't broadcasting it. Mark, who's not a small guy, in our studio was trying to move a large chair in a small room around 17 people.
Did it work? Did it happen?
It happened. Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes,
It
it
was
did.
magical.
What's your complaint?
It happened. And all our blood pressures also happened, too. But notwithstanding that, WNN 1470, we are here 3 hours a day, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. 5, count them, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 days a week. Wasn't there a song, a Beatles song, something like that? 5 days a week, wasn't it?
Oh, gosh. Can we pay you not to sing?
Wasn't it good? Come on, you're the musician.
5 days a week? 5 days
No.
a week. 8 days a week. 8 days a week. 8 days a week.
8 days a week.
It just
Even
feels
I
like
know
8
that.
days, but it's only 5.
Even I know that. Mark's the musician. Mark and Mike, they're the musician. They make beautiful music, yes.
Not together.
Not together.
I just
Not
want to
that we have anything against
that. I just want to clarify that point.
I think this new coffee, Oragold, is it?
No, Organo Gold.
Organo Gold.
I gotta order some now.
I think the new coffee that we're getting into
Let me
is...
give you the flyer for that because...
Yeah, give me the flyer for that, CJ. CJ's already jonesing over here.
Oh, man.
Because I just used my last one today, and they told me that they can't send any yet. I have to wait a couple of days to get it.
Well, here's the deal. On TrentoVision.tv, we come to you because of the generosity of the donors.
Yeah, I'm going to write it down what I want.
You can go to, we are an educational program. You can go to TrentoVision.tv, and you'll see a little donate securely button. Your donations are greatly needed and much appreciated, and they're tax deductible. We are a 501c3 for 30 years, the organization, but we are also starting to sell commercial advertising time. So if you want us to push your crappy products, we will do that.
No crappy products.
Only good products. Only good products.
Yeah.
The crappy stuff, we raise the commercial price. That's what we have to do.
Oh, we charge more for crap.
We charge, yeah. No, but
Can we say that on the radio?
yeah, that's not. What are the 7 words?
I don't know.
But we can't say.
No,
it.
we can't
don't
say
know.
them.
We don't know that.
Silly.
But we found something that is the antithesis of bad. We found. I think I haven't tried it yet.
Oh,
but our coffee
you're
connoisseur,
gonna love it.
our coffee
it's so good.
connoisseur,
I haven't tried it yet.
Cheryl Joy, CJ.
He's got me all excited.
She tried Organogold.
Yeah.
Organogold coffee. It comes in little packets.
Yeah.
It's not instant. It's microbrewed.
It's microbrewed.
They're not jihadis. They're a religion of peace, you know. And she came in yesterday under the influence of Organogold, and has not stopped being under the influence. But we are doing some further testing on this. I think we're all going to like it. And then we're going to...
and then we're going to launch it.
We're going to launch it. We're going to give
we're going to have an Organogold launch party.
Yes. Right here. We're going to brew it here, drink it here.
And we're going to let everyone in the studio try it. They were all coming by yesterday afternoon. Let me have a packet of that.
Give me some of this stuff.
Whatever you're drinking, I want some of that.
I said, no way.
Well, I think we're going to need Organogold, which, if you read the material and talk to the people that promote it, it packs a wallop. It's got a little bit of keep you going element to it. I think we're going to need it. I think this is one of the owners here. On my way to the post office. What is your address?
Send it to the station so we don't have to wait.
All right, I'll do that while we're talking. We're going to need Organogold in September 30th through October 9th of 2013.
Why are we going to need Organogold?
Our bodies are going to be 6 hours in one direction, and our sleep bodies will be 6 hours in one direction, and our real bodies will be 6 hours in another direction.
Is our physical or mental bodies or both?
No, physically we'll be 6 hours ahead of where our sleep cycle is.
Oh, okay.
So there's nothing better than Organogold to help you through that. We will be in Israel.
Oh, woo-hoo.
We are going on a little trip to Israel on September 30th through the 9th, but we'll probably extend it a little bit. And we're going to invite you guys out there to come along with us.
I'm so excited.
And the third guy sitting there going, what the heck am I getting involved in here?
I have to travel with
Are they
them?
travel with these
Are you
nutcases?
flying with us too, or are you already going to be there
He's
when
gonna
we
be
land?
there. No, he's going to go ahead, bro.
Our invitation may be withdrawn before the show is out. The gentleman sitting here is the gentleman I pre-introduced in the earlier hour. But now at 12 minutes past 4 o'clock in Boca Raton, I'd like to formally welcome Ronnie Wexler. What's up, Ron? Nice to see you, man. How are you? My good friend. You got to talk into that microphone.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I didn't know I was invited to a party. But, it's great. It's great. Wonderful.
Yeah, that seems to happen around here.
I know.
somehow. I mean, we deal with very serious stuff.
We make jihad fun.
We make jihad fun, yeah. But Ronnie's a good friend of mine for many years. And as I don't know if you were here when I was just laying out a little bit of your background, but you've studied in the rabbinic schools to become a rabbi. You chose not to go in that direction. You studied in Christian theology schools, both of those to get a broad background. You were born where?
In Tel Aviv, Israel.
In Tel Aviv. You're an Israeli.
Yes, I am.
You did your little time in the IDF.
I certainly did.
Israeli Defense Force. What was your job then? How long were you in?
I was in infantry. I was just about a year before the 6 Days War, so I was in the 6 Days War.
Oh, you were in that.
In active duty, I was for 3.5 years. Actually, when I got to the army, it was only 2.5 years mandatory. Then it was extended to the circumstance for 3, and then another 6 months as a professional soldier. And then in the Yom Kippur War, just mere 6 years later, I was at the Yom Kippur War as well.
All right. Well, we're going to pursue this for a second.
Well, just to explain something, the IDF, for a lot of you who do not know out there, the IDF is actually the Israeli army. And Mark Kohlberg, who we have on here, was in the IDF, but there's a national police force, which is kind of like the FBI and everything else all wrapped in one. That's the national police.
Right.
So you were in the army, in essence.
He was in the Israeli Defense Force.
And the army is the one who guards the border, and the police guard the interior. So just to give a little.
Well, the border police actually guard the border. Remember, we were in those border.
Right.
Those things.
But
these guys, the IDF, it was explained to us, but you could explain to us, you guard beyond the border, you people intruding coming in and bad guys.
We don't guard, we fight. we as a matter of fact, I'd like to make a point here. When I was in the army, we were not involved in guarding at all. We were not police. We were not in the West Bank. There was not a fact in. As a matter of fact, there was no West Bank in my time. We were not guarding. We were not policing. We were not directing traffic. We were trained to guard the borders of Israel, to cross the borders of Israel, to fight wars, army against army. At my time in the army, we didn't have much of terrorism, so it was actually uniformed soldiers against uniformed soldiers. And at the time, if I am not mistaken, at least in the 6 Days War, the Israeli army, without the reservists, was a small army of about 90,000.
Wow.
And the armies that we faced, regular normal armies, were close to 500,000. So the ratio wasn't quite there in our favor. Obviously, we did what we did, and we fought for 6 days, created something in 6 days, and on the 7th day we rested.
So has the mission of the Army changed over the last few years?
It didn't change by definition, but it changed realistically on the ground. We have now areas, territories. Actually, let me explain it even better.
Just get a little closer to the mic. Can you hear okay in your earphones?
I can hear you.
Okay,
I can hear you. Actually, let me explain.
Hang on one second. We're going to talk about the trip and all of that, but we do a lot of work on Israel and Israel national security. So this is right on point. This is good stuff. 888-565-1470. Before you get started, I want to check your memory.
Uh-oh.
What kind of weapon did you have? What kind of gun, rifle for the 6 Day War?
At the 6 Days War, the weapon of choice, which was also mine, was FN, semi-automatic machine gun.
You remember.
And FN stands for Fabrique Nationale.
Yeah.
I believe it comes from Belgium.
Yes, it does, FN, and they still make them, and they're very good guns.
Very quickly, we moved into the first version of Uzi. And at later point, during my reserve, we already had the short version of the Uzi. And, of course, when we got the American weapons, which we don't quite like, I wasn't in the Army anymore. So.
Well, the Uzi is still an infamous, or famous, very famous submachine gun, Israeli submachine gun. The 6 Day War started 67 when? October, was it, or?
It was about May.
Okay, so summertime of 67. Was there any thinking going on, or any warning, or any thought?
It was, let me give you the whole scenario here, and maybe in 2 minutes a bit of history. In 1947, there was an understanding that Israel, the place we call today Greater Israel, was going to be divided between Jews and Arabs. Jews gladly agreed to the deal. We call it Gvulot HaChalukah, meaning the partition land. We liked it very much because until then we didn't have a country we could call Israel, and it was immediately after World War II. There were a lot of refugees, a lot of people, survivors that came from Europe, needed a place to go. So we accepted it, meaning the Jews accepted it right away. The Arabs said if the Jews accept it and declare a state, they go to war against Israel, and that included all the Arab nations around Israel, and not just around Israel, because even Arab nations that aren't bordering Israel became a part of that war, and I go as far as Morocco, in the west, and as far as Iraq in the east. All these countries ganged on together against Israel. There was about 7 armies that decided to go to fight Israel upon declaration of independence. And at that
May 15th, 1948.
That's right. So a year after the partition idea in the United Nations, David Ben-Gurion, a small man who was a giant, decided to take upon himself to declare the state of Israel as de facto. A minute after the declaration, the Egyptian Air Force attacked
Right.
Tel Aviv.
Really?
Yes.
A minute after?
A minute after. 2 minutes after, we already know, not me, I was 1 year old, but we already knew that we are against all the Arab nations ganging up and waging war against Israel. Israel did not have any army, because until then it wasn't a state. It was under British mandate. And when the war was waged, we, meaning Israelis, had weapons that barely could be called weapons
But
against,
they were illegal also.
and they were illegal
Yeah.
until that point. And here you can envision people with actually rifles, single-shot rifles, like Mauser 98.
Yeah.
Chick, chick, chick,
Boom.
yeah, against tanks and armored trucks. And this was the face of the war. We know from history and from stories of our own parents who participated, because everybody in Israel is a soldier in essence, that there were situations in Israel where nothing but, miracle took place to stop a whole column of Egyptian army going towards Tel Aviv. So now, at the end of this war, and we're going to make that short, Israel established two things. Number one, it had its independence. And number two, from a partition given to us, Israel, by the United Nations, that was terrible piece of land with no continual territory. In other words, to go from one part of Israel to the next, you had to go through the Arab lands. Now we had a piece of country that we could call Israel, number one. And number two, you didn't have to go to the enemy positions in order to go to visit your daughter or your uncle or any part of the family. That was in 1948. Relatively, this was a time of peace, but there was no peace declaration. It was ceasefire.
How did the war that started on May 15th, 1948, how did it end, and what caused it to end?
What caused it to end was the might of God, I think, and given to a very few people in Israel the will to fight. And strategically, they waged the war or offensive against the Arab advancing armies. And at one point, they said that there's no way to go any further. They needed
Really?
to declare ceasefire.
Oh, very interesting. Did the United States get involved at that point?
No, not at that point, no. But what needs to be said here is that at that point Jerusalem was divided. So the holy part of Jerusalem wasn't in the hands of the Jews.
Okay.
It always was in the hands, at this particular point,
48.
and time 1948, a part of the Jordan or Transjordan nation, which is the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. And in the Galilee, we had it all the way up to Metula, which is known today as the finger of Galilee into Lebanon. We didn't have the Golan Heights. And we made sure that we're going all the way to the south, to the city of Eilat, to create, first and foremost, a port, a southern port,
Right.
that could connect Israel with the Far East. So now we have a country that was small. There was 600,000 inhabitants in 1948.
600,000.
600,000 inhabitants in 1948. And mere 3 years later, there were 2.5 million people. All of them are Jewish refugees
Came back, yeah.
that were kicked out, didn't come back, were kicked out from the Muslim nations. So here's something to say about Palestinian
Yeah,
refugees.
what about right of return for them?
Right.
Yeah.
They were kicked out with nothing but a shirt on the back.
Wow.
And they came to Israel and immediately became citizens of Israel. And I remember my friends in elementary school still living in tents and in shacks and in little caravans until the country of Israel, with hardly any resources, could make provisions for them to move into permanent housings. So here we are in the situation 1948, where in 3 years, 600,000 received 2.5 million. Imagine America
No.
getting
The percentage, yeah,
900 million refugees and try to settle them.
Processing and moving them in,
Right.
and food and clothing and water and all that stuff. Oh man.
So that situation in Israel is what we call them now the green lines, the border, the green lines of 1948 existed till 1967.
Why green? Where did green come from?
Just the way we pointed up borders in a map. So the green line doesn't really mean anything.
The green doesn't have any significance.
Just a line, the way we.
That's not where you planted all the trees?
Not really, not at all.
All right, so now it's 1948, 49, 50 or so. There was another war in, 56, I think, right?
In 1956, the man who controlled Egypt, Abdul Nasser, decided to take over the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal was a private company held by British and French entities, and Abdul Nasser decided to nationalize the canal. It's a very profitable piece of real estate.
Now, when they did that, that was considered an act of war, just nationalizing.
It was an act of
Yeah.
war for many reasons, not
Yeah.
just by taking it. They controlled a body of water that, according to United Nations, is free to all. So the Brits and the French decided to get into an action here, but Israel supplied the boots. So the British Navy was there, the English were there, the French and the Brits were in the canal, and Israel marched into the Sinai Desert, and took over the entire desert. At that time, the Soviet Union and the United States were very much against it. Pressure was put on Israel, and for a piece of paper and nothing else, Israel evacuated the entire Sinai Peninsula and gave it back to Egypt. And the treaty that was actually signed was that the Suez Canal would be free to all, including Israel, which was never the case. And Israel used Eilat, which is in the southern part of the country, as the gateway to the Far East, but never using the Suez Canal.
All right, here we are, Tom Trento, Trento Vision TV at 27 minutes after 4 o'clock with our friend Ronnie Wexler. CJ's here. Mark disappeared. I don't know where he went to.
I think he's fixing the station's computers.
Oh, okay. Ronnie runs Heritage
Study programs
study programs for how many years?
for 35 years.
35 years. Oh, my word, for 35 years. And they are...
Since he graduated from elementary school.
They are
Before, just kindergarten.
They are study programs where he brings groups from the United States into Israel, all through Israel. He's got dual citizenship, lives in Tel Aviv now or Jerusalem?
Tel
Aviv and Boca Raton.
Boca Raton.
Goes back and forth every month, all these years. We, the United West, we're going on one of these briefings in September 30th, October 9th. You can come. What's the website they can contact you at?
HeritageStudyPrograms.com.
HeritageStudyPrograms.com. And we'll spend a minute on that. We're discussing, not only does he do this, but conduct these briefings, these tours, these fact-finding missions. But he was born in Israel and fought in several wars. And for our national security audience that's very interested in all of this, we're gonna walk through these in great historic detail with Ronnie, a former Israeli soldier, infantryman who fought. And we're going to make some application based upon past experiences. Like so far, Ronnie, we're in 1956. So far, twice Egypt attacked Israel, 1948 and 1956. Because we are maintaining here, the United West, Trento Vision, that if the vote goes the wrong way, which is the right way for President Mohammed Morsi next Saturday, the 22nd, and the Salafists and the Brotherhood win, and Egypt becomes a theocracy, guided by the Sharia and the Quran. This ain't good news for Israel. This is very bad news. We'll get into that. But who are some of the people coming on the fact-finding mission we're going on? Let's discuss that for a minute. Then we'll get back to the war stuff.
Okay. Well, from the United States, we have some of our friends. Frank Gaffney is one of them.
Frank Gaffney, Center for Security Policy, world expert on national security. He's coming. He's going to be one of the speakers.
He's one of the leaders.
Okay, good friend of ours, my personal friend, all of our personal friends. Yeah. All right.
Bill Federer will be there, American historian and incredible teacher.
Bill Federer, he is an amazing guy. He has the Federer Minute, I think it is.
American Minute.
The American Minute. Each day, a little slice of Americana that we don't even know about. All right, this is good. I'm getting excited. Who else?
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. William Murray. Eesh. Eesh.
Not the Groundhog Day one.
No, this is
ex-Navy man.
Well, Bill's mother and I didn't see eye to eye.
Nobody saw eye to eye with her.
She got me in a lot of trouble one day. Bill's mother, William Murray, who's going on this trip, is an evangelical Christian. Wasn't always. He was raised in an atheist home. Madeline Murray O'Hare is Bill's mom. Madeline Murray was the one in 1963.
That Bill Murray?
And that's the guy.
Oh my gosh.
Bill is the son that Madeline used to have the Supreme Court overturn public schools' right to read. I used to read Bible verses, I used to read Psalm 23, just read it, and the teacher would say, who wants to read Psalm 23? Tom, come up and read Psalm 23. And we used to be able to do all those things. But Bill Murray left the flock, so to speak. I was supposed to debate Madeline Murray O'Hare Easter Sunday, 1986. And she had the American Atheists had their convention in Denver, Colorado, and we never debated. I wound up debating somebody else. She backed down, but I wound up seeing the inside of a paddy wagon. That's another story. Okay, that's another story. So Bill Murray's coming. He's a friend of mine, by the way.
Bill Murray took a sharp turn to the right.
He did, yes, he did.
And he's an activist on the Hill, and he's a tremendous individual. Been very helpful to pass some legislations on the Hill, and we like him.
Yeah, good guy.
And he's a great teacher too.
Good guy.
So those are, and few more are those who come from the States. But in Israel, some of the speakers are. Dor Gold, who was the ambassador of Israel to the United Nations.
Dor Gold. Oh, he's great.
Oh my gosh, I read all his books.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Amos Yadlin, General Amos Yadlin.
Oh,
is,
okay.
One of the speakers as well. He was Chief of Staff of Israel, the Army Chief of Staff. We have Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon, who we saw just a couple of weeks ago. Danny
Ayalon. The picture I just sent you.
It's up. No, it's not. It's up right now.
We have Prime Minister Deputy Moshe Ya'alon. Bogie.
Yeah.
You know him personally.
This picture right now, this is you with Ayalon. What's his position? He was a U.S.
He was the U.S. ambassador to Washington, the Israeli ambassador to Washington.
Yeah.
And now he's Deputy Foreign Minister.
We're showing that on the screen right now for our radio audience, Ronnie and Ayalon. We were at an event recently. Bogie is amazing, though. Bogie Ya'alon.
Right. He's amazing, yeah.
He really is.
He's the Deputy Prime Minister. And we have...
but give 30 seconds on his military background.
He was Israeli IDF Chief of Staff. He's one of Israeli heroes. He's a man who says what he thinks and thinks what he says.
Which war is he famous for?
He was in the 6 Days War. He was also in the Yom Kippur War.
I was at a conference, 1,500 Christians, in June of 2010 in downtown Philadelphia, and he was the keynote speaker. And he was the keynote speaker at the end, all of a sudden there's a bunch of commotion, and a group of about 20 guys all walk in from different points, and he's in the middle. He had about 20 bodyguards around him. This is a Christian thing, no less, right? Mm-hmm. But he got on the stage. He spoke for 90 minutes. He had the Christians in tears, the Jewish people that were there in tears, and he says, I'm here on behalf of Prime Minister Netanyahu,
Right.
and we firmly believe. He said, I'm telling you right now, we firmly believe that the evangelical Christians are our best friends. We need you. We want to work together. And he preached a sermon on all of that. And it was pretty wild.
Listen, Tom, I dedicated my life to create bridges between Christians and Jews. I think that the evangelical groups in the United States are not only Israel's best allies, but they've been grafted to the trunk of the tree. And they are one and they're just one. It's, our problem is their problem, and we feel it. And I think that I remember a time when I used to bring some of the pastors to my parents' home, and they asked me, "What are you doing, Ronnie?" I said, "Those are your friends. Those are our friends." I'll tell you something. Just before the 6 Days War, I remember that I'm going on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Just before the 6 Days War, you asked me before if it came all of a sudden. No, it didn't. It came in stages. And at one point, Abdul Nasser decided to stop that main port of the south and not allow any shipping lines to come to Israel. So that was obviously a major red line for Israel. Yeah. You all of a sudden there's a blockade on everything that comes from the east, and not only that we weren't able to use the Suez Canal, that was really something that we had in mind by giving back the Sinai Desert to Egypt. We didn't use it. Now we're not able to use the oceans either, so that's something that we cannot accept. Now, Abdul Nasser has the dream to become the head of the caliphate. What today we see in Ahmadinejad was at the time really what Abdul Nasser idea. So he made a treaty with Syria, and all of a sudden the countries, Syria and Egypt, became in essence one.
What year is this now?
1965 into...
Okay, just before 67.
Yes.
Okay, so this is leading up to that.
Leading
all right,
up,
I'm getting it.
So now Syria and Egypt are basically one nation. And certainly the armies are one. And the Supreme Commander...
And Assad's father was ruling Syria at the time? So Bashar Assad, the son, who's in his 40s now, who's probably not going to be there long, 40, 50 years ago, his dad was the dictator.
But Abdul Nasser was really the man controlling the moves in the Middle East. And Syria, in a way of a total provocation, decided to turn the source of the Jordan River from Israel and not allow any water into the Sea of Galilee, which is the main reservoir of water of Israel. Israel cannot allow this to happen. So
wait, what was he doing? He was
diverting. He actually brought tractors and bulldozers.
Now, you got the Jordan River
to divert the sources. You see, the Jordan River has three sources. And those three sources are really waterways that come into the Jordan. He decided to move the sources of the Jordan River away from the Jordan River and basically suffocate, basically not allowing any water.
Because Israel gets water from the Jordan River.
From the Sea of Galilee, which is really a part of the Jordan River
up
system.
in the north.
Right.
Okay.
So that was a provocation from the north, and at the same time, Abdul Nasser cut Israel off the rest of the world in Eilat.
Oh.
So now Israel is ready to protect itself. So mobilization started. The reservists of Israel were called in. I was a soldier. I was called in, I remember as if it was yesterday. I came home and all of a sudden my mother told me that there was a phone call that went.
What were you doing? What were you doing at the time?
I was in the army. I was a part of the Israeli army. But I came back for Shabbat. I remember it was Friday, and I came back for Shabbat, and my mother told me that there's a message at home by phone that the moment I come in, I should go back to camp. And we were really in readiness for whole months. And at that time, the country stopped everything. Trade and commerce didn't exist. All men became a part of the army.
Wow.
Children actually went to work in factories. Old people started to run buses again. The whole country became one unit, to protect the nation. And that lasted for about a month. And in this particular month, the foreign minister of Israel at that time, Mr. Abba Eban,
Yeah, sure.
went from one capital in Europe to the next, asking people to diffuse the tension. Because remember, there are 2.5 million people in Israel, and there's 500 million Muslims around Israel.
Back then, yeah.
And we see on television daily how all these armies are coming together.
Wow.
And you see it on a daily basis. So when you asked me before, when we talked before about evangelism and what do I think about it, I remember distinctly at that time that I felt that I was going to die. Number one, I was going to die in this war. Everybody else is going to die. And what Hitler started in Europe and didn't finish was going to be finished in 1967 in Israel.
Wow.
We're all going to be killed.
Wow.
That's the idea. And the reason for it was because no country in the world stood up for Israel. And when Abba Eban went from one capital in Europe to the next, and then to Washington, the United Nations, they refused. Nobody cared. So the idea was that we don't have friends, that there's nobody there for Israel. And for a young man like me, 19 years old at the time, it was an awful feeling. It was like, here we're going to be slaughtered, and nobody cares. So friendship for us was, first and foremost, number one thing was to make friends. So today when you see Israelis come from Israel to the United States or anywhere else, number one, they are looking for friends. They say, oh, we love you, we want you, they hug, they kiss. And when you come to Israel, it seems like you feel that tremendous electricity in the air when you come. And I haven't seen yet a Christian that didn't come to Israel, that came to Israel and said, I don't feel at home here. It's like they say that they feel like they've been there and yet they haven't been there at all.
You agree, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, he was with us. Absolutely. Let's see what. Let's take a call here, and then I want to continue with this. Who do you have there, CJ?
Okay, we have George on the line. George, are you there?
Yes.
Hi, George. Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
And where are you calling from, George?
Sarasota.
Sarasota. You have a question?
I don't understand. Am I calling a station, radio station?
Did you want to speak to Tom or Ronnie?
Well,
Yeah.
I really don't know. I've got an email from a friend of mine about a Marine that needs your help, and it's about a John Hammer. That's
Tom, you want to?
Yeah, that's an email from us. That was our first hour subject. But you are on a live radio station now, broadcasting all over the place. So if it's a personal message,
No, it's in regards to this whole situation with Obama.
Yeah, okay, sure. You could. What are your thoughts?
Pardon me?
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts about Obama?
No. Why are you calling? What was your purpose for calling?
Because I got an email from a friend about a Marine that he needs some help. He's chained to a bed, I guess in Mexico, and all it needs is a phone call, supposedly. I mean, it needs a phone call from Obama to set him free. Apparently, he's locked up in a jail cell. And
I'll tell you what. We went through all of that the first hour. We're going to deal with that in the third hour at 5:00. So you got a pencil?
Yes.
All right. If you go, you know how to use the internet?
Almost. I'm 82, but I
Okay.
think I can get there.
All right. I'm going to give you a website to go to, and we'll do a couple of things. www.
Okay.
Trento, my name, Trento, Trento Vision, like television, but Trento Vision, all one word, .tv. If you go there, you can watch the show, and actually our last hour that covered John Hammer, the Marine, You can watch that later on this evening, and you'll get a lot of information about him. Or you can watch the show live, our third hour. We're going to pick more up on that. Right now we have a special guest, and we're talking about Israel and preparation for future wars and the historical look at Israel in past wars. So why don't you hang up, go to TrentoVision.tv. You can watch the show, and we can talk to you a little later.
Okay, am I allowed to say anything?
Yeah, you can't say anything bad, but you can make a comment, and then we got to let you go because we're on another subject now. What's your comment?
Yeah, well, you go ahead. I just call Obama a communist. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean, it's still America, and you got a First Amendment right to call them anything you want. I think you'd agree with Alan West and a bunch of people on that.
Yeah, they haven't scrapped the First Amendment yet.
Yeah.
But keep your eyes open.
For the record, George, one of the ways I refer to him is a doctrinaire communist or Marxist, doctrinaire Marxist. He doesn't carry, I don't think, a card-carrying communist as the real communists do, but his belief system, his doctrine that he believes, closely resembles Marxism, and so.
Well, I tell people that the only difference between Obama and Hitler is Hitler's dead. That's the only difference between the two of them.
Okay, well, we'll
there you have it.
Call back in the future. Thank you for your thoughts. And,
Thanks, George.
We'll see you now.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye, George. So it's
So we are TrentoVision.tv, WNN, 1470 AM, 1-888-565-1470, and we are here with Ronnie Wexler.
Yes,
who's giving us a very good crash course
trip
on
down
the
memory lane.
History of Israel's wars, and hopefully we're going to wind up to today and maybe take a little peek into the future.
I think we are.
Okay.
What's your schedule? Can you stay over for the next hour?
Over?
I can stay for
Okay.
a while.
Excellent,
Okay, good,
because
good,
if we get you to stay between the 5 and 6 hour, you have to take us all out for supper. It's a trick.
All right, we're in 1966. We're in 1966 in Israel, and things ain't looking good. Up on the north, Bashar Assad's daddy in Syria made a deal with Nasser and said, "Let's take care of these pesky Jews." And he dammed up the Jordan to cut the water supply to the Sea of Galilee. That's sort of a medieval way, of fighting. You cut the water supply. We still do it today.
Poisoning it would have been really medieval.
Then down in the south, the Egyptians cut access to the port. So you guys are being cut off all over the place. It's Shabbat. You get called up. This is 67 now then.
1967,
Right.
and it took about a month from the time that the blockade was announced by Abdul Nasser, and the situation in northern Israel took some time because diversion of water doesn't take overnight. And what I said before the interruption, we felt that we didn't have friends because Mr. Abba Eban, the foreign minister of Israel, was trying to go from one place, one capital in the world to the next, to defuse the situation. Nobody listened, nobody cared, and then 6 days into June, the war started. Israel decided to preempt, and the Air Force of Israel attacked, almost everybody around Israel, with the exception of Lebanon. We felt, funny enough, at that time Lebanon was a very peaceful country, so we said that Israel did not go against Lebanon because the pilot of Lebanon was sick that day, and there was no...
Oh, really?
Yeah, so no, Lebanon was...
Oh, we're letting the secrets out here in Israeli warfare.
Truly, Lebanon was a peaceful country and was a good neighbor of Israel. It was way before the PLO moved into Lebanon and created a mess. So the Israeli...
They moved in because
because King Hussein wasn't allowing to stay in Jordan.
Expelled from Jordan.
Right, but so the Israeli Air Force
Now, where'd you get the jets from?
Most of the jets were, at that time, most of the jet was from France. France was Israel's best ally before 1967.
Early on, okay.
And this was the turn.
It ain't the same now.
Ain't the same now, and will never be the same again.
God. So they're mirages, old mirages, probably, right?
At that time, Mirage, let me think for a second. I think it was Mystère and Fuga Mystères, and the Mirage, I think the Mirage was already there, but very small number of them. The Israeli Air Force wasn't as sophisticated, but nonetheless, with a genius plan of the head of the Air Force, Israel, at 7:45 in the morning, attacked all the air forces, military air force, and the Egyptian international, because the Egyptians put fighter jets between international airliners. And aerial pictures shown after the war clearly showed that all the damage was into the fighter jets, and domestic airlines weren't touched. There were actually pictures of airplanes, and in between them, there were remnants.
There were
of
strikes
fighter
in
jets,
between, but they left the commercial airliners alone.
And
Pretty-
a quarter
pretty
to
good.
8 was a genius attack, and the quarter to 8 actually
that prayer time?
became a video later on by the family of the head of the Israeli Air Force, General Hod, and he figured two things. Number one, that the sun rays are in the eyes of the people who are going to be looking at the skies. And the other reason, probably more importantly, that the shifts are changing.
Oh, 7:45.
So 7:45 became also in the Air Force
Folklore.
The time every day Israeli soldiers, pilots, used to go on training missions at exactly the same time.
Oh, really?
So on the day of the attack, they did not know that they're going to go on a real mission. So when they got into the cockpits, they still did not know. And only when they took off, they were given the orders, the marching orders, and they flew all the way to their targets. But it was an amazing story.
That is amazing. I never heard that story. That I knew that there was an attack, a surprise attack, while they were on the ground. But you figure out, there's even back then there was radar and there was different things, but all those little tricks added up to a beautiful mission.
Yeah.
So, all right, that was day one. What was the response of the there were 6 or 7 nations that joined together, right?
Well, day one was very critical because all the air forces of Jordan, Syria, Egypt, and even Iraq were basically damaged in a way that the sky was free.
Wow.
And you as a military man yourself know that if your sky is free, it's almost like saying, I'm watching your back.
Yeah.
So we on the ground could do the job. And from that point on, which took only maybe 3 hours in the first day, this decisive blow on the air forces of those 4 countries were enough to make sure that we're going all the way. So 6 days later,
Wait, hang on. We're gonna. This could be a cliffhanger. We gotta take a break here in a second. Tom Trento, I'm getting deeply involved in this. I love the and the reason why the analysis of what took place by somebody who was there, as opposed to reading it in a book or watching it on the TV, is because we feel there's going to be more serious problems. These same enemies exist. These same enemies are more empowered now. These same enemies are being supported by the United States of America. Israel's lost this administration as a friend, and they're a friend of the other side, and in a real respect. So we're figuring out in the United West, Trento Vision, what to do to mobilize Americans, mobilize Westerners, Europeans, to stand with Israel in the very difficult days ahead. So we're going to take a little look at history. Then we're going to make some projections, and based upon what we know, figure out what we should do. What do you think of that, CJ?
That sounds swell to me, and I have a whole list of questions. So you better give me some cue time
You got
in the
your
next
questions?
hour.
All right, we'll do that. Mark, get your questions ready. Mike, get your questions ready. And if you at home want to ask some questions, even you, George, if you want to ask some questions, you can give us a call at 888-565-1470. We are with Ronnie Wexler, a former Israeli Defense Force infantryman who fought in several of the historic wars. We're going to learn more about it and what it means to you here in America in just a few minutes.